What's up, and welcome in to Under the Hood with me, Jonathan Hood. We are presented by Ankin Law, Howard Ankin. That's the attorney that you need to turn to. Injury law made personal. That's Ankin Law, 312-6 million. Call Howard. Put that number on your phone. You just never know that you might get into an injury. Something happens in the streets. You're like, oh, I need a lawyer. Call Ankin Law, 312-6 million, to reach out to our guy, Howard Ankin, a friend of ESPN Chicago on the Kap J-Hood Morning Show, and, of course, Under the Hood with me, Jonathan Hood. So much to talk about here. The Bears are on a bye, 2-2. It doesn't stop us from talking about the Bears. And also, we're going to talk to our very special guest about something that just kind of occurred to me just out of nowhere, just scrolling through your phone. So, Bulls Media Day. What? Look how quickly that happened. So, to talk about all of this as we go to our guy from the CTJReport.net. And CTJ Reports on YouTube as well is the great CTJ is with us here. Charles Taylor with us here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. As always, sir, appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me on. There's a lot to discuss here, especially when it comes to the Bulls, I guess.
Oh yeah, it snuck up on me that the Bulls had their media day. I'm like, what is Kobe White doing there? What's he doing there? Oh, there's a media day that's happening. So I want to start off first and talk to you about the Chicago Bulls because the calendar is flipped to October. We will have
Hmm.
the NBA right around the corner. I just want to get your thoughts, sir, as someone who constantly complains about the Chicago Bulls. Nobody's on it like you. In the middle of the January, we can always depend on the CTJReport.net bitching about the Bulls. So, what's your outlook?
It's gonna be it's gonna be something. This is a team that was constructed by Arturas Karnisovas, and as you look at the roster of this team, they are young. Outside of Vooch and maybe one other player, no one else is over 30. I listened to the media day that Arturis and Billy Donovan were just sitting up there, just kind of yakking along about how this is a great young core and we've got some good young players, and we really love the fact that they went 15-5 in their last 20 to get into a play-in game, only to get smoked by Miami in the play-in game again. Uh, you start to just ask the question, what are we looking for here for this whole season? I mean, there's been trade speculation with Kobe White all year long, especially through the summer, and it's probably going to happen throughout the regular season too. But Arturis is like, oh, we love Kobe. We want to, keep Kobe and hopeful that we can
Mhm.
sign him. But if you wanted Kobe, you would have just signed him. It's as simple as that. If he's going to be the linchpin to this restructuring, rebuilding, whatever the hell you want to call it, Kobe should be the guy. And you should lock him up and like you locked up Josh Giddey, and that's your backcourt going forward. But to say that we love Kobe, but at the same time going to drag out this whole contract signing thing just pretty much tells me that you don't love Kobe like you say you do. So it just begs
So,
the question: what are we doing?
yeah,
What are we doing?
it's the same question we ask every year, isn't it, Charles Taylor? We're asking the same question all the time about what are the Bulls doing. So it's like, okay, so here's what I see. What we're going to see is on a long road trip, what we used to call the circus trip, we're going to see some crazy shooting performances by the Chicago
Mhm.
Bulls. Like you're going to see Kobe White shoot out of his ass, and it's going to be unbelievable, right? And then we're going to have Nick Wright from FS1 put him on like the top 25 players in the NBA because of his shooting profile, which is deserved, right? But then from
Yeah.
there, it's like Buzelis. I look. I know he comes in as a Chicago dude with a chip on his shoulder. I want to see
Hmm.
if there's a sophomore slump with him. I don't know what we're going to expect there. But Josh Giddey, it's interesting. You had a choice of Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey. You went with Josh Giddey. I'll tell you this: Josh Giddey can be able to be a good lead guard, but as far as him being able to shoot the ball at a high clip and be a difference maker offensively, that's going to be a problem. I just feel like we're going to see some great shooting nights from a couple of players, but I don't expect the world from the Bulls outside of the seventh seed.
You're being generous. The 7 seed. Okay. Well, you know what? They could get the 7 seed because you've got some major players throughout the Eastern Conference who aren't going to be there this year. Tyrese Halliburton with the Pacers.
Mhm.
You've got Jason Tatum with the Celtics. They're more than likely going to miss most of the year, if not all of this upcoming season. So that does open up the Eastern Conference a bit for the Bulls to maybe sneak in as a 7 seed. But just kind of going forward, again, we're back to the same story we've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 years with this team ever since they had the number one seed back in 2021 before Lonzo Ball got hurt. What are we doing here? How are we building? How does this get you closer to getting in championship contention? And just looking at this roster as it's constructed now, you're hoping that Kobe takes another step. You're hoping that Josh Giddey can, develop into something. You're hoping that Buzelis, becomes this diamond in the rough type all star. You see where I'm going here? We're
Oh
hoping for a
yeah.
lot of things, but where's that guy? Where's that dude? Because you can look to other teams around the league and say, well, that's that dude, or you may have two dudes, on your team. We're hoping, for all stars. That's that's a recipe to get you in the play-in game. Maybe the 8 seed, maybe the 7 seed. But we'll be sitting here in in mid-April, late April, maybe into May if they get into a playoff series. But there's nothing uh, for this season to really look forward to, other than to see if Bozelis can develop. Essengay will, become a player. He's 18 years old. This is a kid, with this team. I there's not a lot to hope for.
CTJ, you know where we are in 2025 in our political discourse, in our sports discourse, in our social
Mhm.
media discourse, where you just say shit and you don't care about ramifications. People just say shit. And so
Yeah.
Arturas kind of showed us in that last not the one for media day, but like to end the season, pretty much
Hmm.
saying that be patient with us. We're in
Hmm.
development mode. When Joe Cowley's in the back, like that smart ass student in the back who's got his
Hmm.
hand raised and saying, "Hey, what are you doing to add more money? What are you going to do to add more talent to this team?" And Arturas is like, "Oh, just be patient with us. We'll just be patient. We are developing our young core," meaning that they're not try to get someone from a top shelf or even a middle shelf
Hmm.
to try to make the Bulls better. So Arturas is along with everyone else in this world that just says stuff like it doesn't matter if it's a lie or the truth. I'm just telling you how it is. We're not doing anything, so just sit there and enjoy it, and that's bad.
Oh, it's terrible, but they know they're going to get 18,000 into the United Center, to watch the Try Hard Bulls 3.0, to see these young kids. I mean, this is almost like the White Sox,
Yeah.
back in the late 90s. The kids can play, but where does that end? Where does that lead you at the end of the day? It's going to lead you into purgatory once again, for a basketball team that has such a rich history that we're reduced to this. We're reduced to hoping for things to happen instead of looking at other teams actually making things happen. Their top free agent signing over the summer, Isaac Okoro. Oh,
Yeah.
Arturus was all, all talking about, oh, this is a great pickup and he's going to help the intensity and the defense, with our team. He's going to bring toughness. He's going to bring stability. I'm like, this is a dude that averaged 8 points a game, throughout his career, averaged 6 points last year with Cleveland. Now you could say, hey, they got shooters, they got ballers. There's not enough balls to go around for him to score. What is he going to do here?
I don't understand. I just it's just a body, a warm body in a uniform that says Bulls on it. That's what that
Hmm.
is. That's what that is. We're going to both educate our basketball audience today. Also, some things I
Okay.
picked up along the way that I want to share with you. Okay, so we're going to do
Okay.
this, and then we'll pivot to the Bears. But I do want to don't forget to like, share, subscribe to this video, and make sure you support the ctjreport.net, and also the budding, growing YouTube channel of the CTJ Report. There's more that's going to be coming there because I'm going to make sure that Charles stays on it. So there'll be more between me
Yeah,
and his wife. We're going to make sure that there's a lot more material because we need more journalism through video, through you. So
yeah.
how about this? Okay, it says a number of things. There's one thing I want to talk to you about, but I just want to also point this out. Okay, so did you know, CTJ, that Giannis has COVID?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. Okay. Did you know also that Giannis is in Greece with COVID? So his media day was on a video. He was not there in Milwaukee. He was on a video and was asked by a reporter, "Hey, what the owner of the Bucks said that you and you, Giannis, and the owner had a great conversation about the future of
Mm.
you staying with Milwaukee." And Giannis replied, "We never had that conversation."
Oh,
How about that?
all
I
right.
know we've been on Giannis. We've been on Giannis watch for like 5 years.
I
So I
know.
mean, he's one of those dudes. He's at Euro. That's like, I'll never leave. I love Milwaukee, whatever. But at some point, he looks at the. I'm sure he looks at the team and looks around and goes, I don't want to be Dirk. I want a second championship, and that's on ESPN.com. He's seeking a second championship. What do you think of that story?
I think the owner probably should have had a conversation with Giannis before getting out on and making those type of statements. Look, Giannis is he understands what his legacy is right now. He knows he's in the dirt, like you said, the dirt territory, but he wants to move past that. And what he's been in the league, what 11, 12 years now. So he's if not at the very end of his apex, on the way towards the starting to slide down a little bit. So while he's got a little peak of his powers left, he's looking around at this Milwaukee Bucks team. Okay, so I don't have Dame anymore. You keep trading away valuable pieces, and you expect me to literally put this team on my back and carry them to 50, 55 wins, and maybe we can squeak into the NBA Finals. Maybe they could do it this year with how the East is depleted. But then you look out west. Who are they beating out west? They're not beating OKC. You know,
Right.
they're not beating Denver if Denver's healthy. You know, San Antonio's coming. You know, other teams are coming. So Giannis is surveying the territory, and he's looking around and seeing, hey, Milwaukee, you need to do something and do something quickly because at some point I want out because I want more rings.
Yeah, and there's no Lillard. So just remember that as well. So that's
Yeah.
he's gonna be the primary ball handler
Hmm.
at his size, and he's gonna have the ball in his hands the lion's share of the time. So that's one. So I just wanted to pass that along to you that Giannis is like, no, I don't know what he's talking about. We never had a conversation about whether I'm going to stay in Milwaukee or not. And the brother has COVID in Greece. All right, that's one
Yeah.
story. Here's another story. How about this one? We talk about guys that are at the apex of their career, right? So let's talk about
Hmm.
Kevin Durant.
Hmm.
Kevin Durant, even though we can tweet, we love your game, that doesn't resonate. But if you say you need a brush, he gets pissed off. He'll clap back at you on social media. So he's always there for that. He's always there for the hate, not the love.
Yeah.
Um, just waves, man. Just waves in the wave cap. They'll just straighten that
But
right out, man.
that's
I'm
that's
just
that's
telling you.
all. That's all. I don't know. Yeah, I can't understand why he can't figure that out. But go ahead.
I feel maybe I'm aging myself. I just feel like you guys like you and I that like to keep it clean. I just don't believe in black people having bedhead. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
believe in
just
that. I don't think that. I don't think you can have that when you don't have much hair at all. But then you look like you have not brushed it in months. Can't do
yeah.
that.
I don't understand that whole psychology. Just waking up, rolling out of bed, and it was like, all right, I'm good. I'm just I'm gonna put on my clothes and walk out the door. With however my head's looking. Yeah, we're from a different time, a different era. I don't know what these new dudes, these young dudes are thinking. And the thing is, Durant's not like young. He's not SGA young. He's in his mid-30s. He should
Yes.
know better.
This portion of the Under the Hood with John the Hood podcast brought to you by Wave Enforcer. Yes, the Wave Enforcer brush. If you need one, It's right here, KD. Waving Forster brush.
Just go to
Kevin
your
Durant
local
has
go to your
averaged at
local
least
beauty store.
yeah, I'm just trying to help you. Get yourself a cap while you're there too. Um, Kevin Durant has averaged at least 25 points, 50% shooting, and 40% on threes in 3 straight seasons. It's the longest streak in NBA history. Now you wouldn't think that because it's KD. He's part of the furniture now of the NBA, right? He's just been around for a
Hmm.
long so but you take it for granted. Those numbers are dope. But he said that to the media at his media day that yes, he could see himself for the long haul in Houston. That's working with Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. and Reed Shepard and Amen Thompson. Um, so when he says the long haul, does that mean as long as he's satisfied that he'll stay, or what does that mean? Long haul in Houston.
Long haul in Houston is pretty much as long as he feels that that's a championship caliber window.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means to him because this has kind of been his track record. When he was with Brooklyn and they got the quote unquote big three together, he thought it was a championship window until it wasn't. He goes out to Golden State. It's a championship window until, some players start to age or, he has feels a certain type of way about some of the players on the team. Then he goes to Phoenix because he thinks he can hook up with Booker, and it's a championship window until it isn't. So
Right.
that's the Kevin Durant story. We'll see how this goes in Houston this year, and if they can make a deep run in the playoffs. And if so, yeah, this might be a place for him to stay. If not, look for him to see if he can find another team because that's what he does. As great as he is, and he is an all timer, first ballot Hall of Famer, no question, one of the greatest players of his or any generation. But this is
Mm-hmm.
what he does. He goes team shopping when things aren't well for him.
Uh, he just loves to cut and run. That's what he loves to do. That's what he
Hmm.
does when the going gets tough, right? Ime Adoka, by the way, who had the biggest turnover in the history of the NBA by fumbling his ex-wife. Um, so he mentioned that he might have the tallest team, tallest starting lineup probably in the history of the game. I mentioned Shepard, Thompson, Durant, Jabari Smith, and Sengun. Also, Steven Adams is on this team. So they might look for that this season that you might have the tallest team across the board in the NBA. Just little nuggets I picked up over the last few days. How about that from Media Day?
Yeah, that's they're going to be a problem out in the West now. Whether that translates to them, being able to beat Oklahoma City in a 7-game series, they certainly got the height to do it. But um, we'll see if they can gel, throughout the year to really challenge. Because I honestly look at Houston as probably outside of Denver, maybe the biggest threat to Oklahoma City. Because you don't know what you're going to get with Minnesota. Ant Man's great, but that team just is schizophrenic. Memphis is equally as schizophrenic because you never know if Ja's going to stay healthy, if they're going to be able to gel, or if he can actually stay out of trouble. So those are the things that you're kind of looking forward to. If OKC stays healthy, it's going to be hard for Houston to try to beat them in a 7-game series.
I'm also hearing that Memphis is very dangerous. I hear that in political discourse that Memphis is very dangerous
Yeah,
to be in the city. Yeah,
very
so
dangerous. You need to send in the National Guard and ICE. For-
I've been hearing that from sports people saying that
yeah,
like people like that the NBA free agents don't want to come to Memphis. And I'm just like, ain't no suburb of Memphis. You don't live in the city proper. Nobody lives in the city proper. Like you live in
right.
a suburb that the league that the team tells you to live in. The subdivision, like the suburb, whatever. Here's
Yeah.
another one for you, sir. Le- LeBron James still going at it. Say what you want about LeBron. Has a pain in the ass. He has a nerve glute injury.
Hmm.
Were you aware of this? That LeBron has a glute injury that he's not going to be ready like immediately for training camp. So the pain in the ass that LeBron is actually has a pain in his ass.
At Father Time is undefeated, and everyone seems to know that, but him. So
Yeah.
he's that team with the Lakers. They have to like really turn the page and center that around Luca. Um, LeBron obviously will still put up his numbers, his 25, 7 and 7, but you
Yes.
also know you're not getting 82 games out of him. You can get 60, maybe 65 max. But he's
Hmm.
he's not going to be the reason if the Lakers are successful. Is not going to become LeBron. You got to shift that towards Luca. And Luca's, dropped a ton of weight. So, maybe this this is the year that Luca, goes from being, all-star caliber to, actual MVP, caliber if he can, keep the weight off. Because,
Sure.
Luca, like the rest of us, loves to eat.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. But, I mean, you got drafted to Dallas. What you think you're gonna eat there? You
I
like
mean,
salads?
The Tex-Mex is outstanding in Dallas. Just saying.
Yes, it is. I mean, the best barbecue, the best steaks, the best Tex-Mex. What you think it's gonna
Yeah.
be? Um. Lastly, as far as news and notes, before we talk about the Bears, sir, is Nafisa Collier. So I addressed this in a previous podcast regarding Nafisa Collier, the vice president of the WNBA, also as part of another endeavor that she has that she's vice president of with her husband, Unrivaled, made a big statement about the state of the league. And this is not anything new, but it is the most profound statement against the commissioner that I've ever heard on the record, especially while a player is playing. There's been a lot
Mhm.
of players that have complained about the league or complained about things that's happening in their league. CJ, I've never heard someone like Nafisa, just eloquently sitting down. She's hurt. She's hurt, by the way. She has a grade 2 tear and in her leg. She tore 3 ligaments in the injury that she suffered for the Minnesota
Mhm.
Lynx. But what she said was pretty strong. I just want to get your thoughts about what she's talking about, because for those that say that Caitlin Clark's over here and the WNBA is over here, Nafisa's speaking on behalf of everyone in the league, saying we need to get paid better. We have to have better officials because people get hurt left and right. So I just want to get your thoughts. I'm sure that scrolled across your phone about Collier calling out Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA.
I mean, kudos to her for, making those statements. Those are just incredible, powerful statements that she made in response to the WNBA. And it's going to carry weight. I mean, the media has been talking about it for the last couple of days. And it really puts the commissioner of the WNBA on the hot seat especially as they go into these uh, CBA negotiations. Listen, you got to pay these women more, and that's just the bottom line. Even the comment that she said the commissioner made about Caitlin Clark, that she should thank her lucky stars, that she's in the league. Like the commissioner's saying this about literally your number one marketed star. What does she actually think about the rest of the players in the league? And they've got stars in this league. And if the commissioner's talking about Caitlin Clark that way, then what does she think about Asia? What does she think about Angel Reese? What does she think about some of the other stars, Leah Boston? That's in the WNBA. It really speaks to the commissioner and ownership on how they look at these women who are out there like gutting it out, playing their hearts out. It's physical, it's tough, and they're basically taking these women for granted because they think, oh well, they should be happy that we even have a league. No, you need to pay these women, because they're out there. They're the ones that are getting fans into the seats. The Indiana Fever is selling out every game. A lot of that, it was the political discourse, of our time. But they're not the only team that's selling out. Las Vegas Aces are selling out. The Valkyries, they sold out their arenas. The Chicago Sky gets good attendance. So this isn't, just something that the women should just be happy to be playing in the league. No, let's pay them, for what they're doing and what they're bringing this type of attention to the league. So kudos to Nafisa. She was very brave and courageous to even make those statements.
If true, there is going to be problems in the off season as far as a lockout or strike, and then how much the women are deserve to be paid. It's never going to be the price that they want. It's the price that you negotiate.
Hmm.
So my hope is that the league can see fit, one, that the officiating's shitty, you fix it, you try to
Hmm.
fix that. You want to do what's best for the players. That's one, obviously, as far as on the court. But the other thing is too is that if you have a lucrative streaming and television deal, and the players are not getting a decent piece of that pie, whatever that percentage is, I don't know what it is, CJ. I have no idea, but they can't be under the shoe of the executives, the players, saying
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you're out there to play. You're just happy to have just a little piece of this." Whatever people think of Caitlin Clark and some of the other stars of the WNBA, Clark is the Pied Piper because it brought the college fans over to the pros. There's already great players that were there. So because of that blend, I think that you got to do right by the players. That's only right. But if you're still paying them, a paltry sum for all the work that they put in, that's a shame. I'll also add this. I think it's clear that the WNBA was not ready for all this. It was not. It is the equivalent of having a place to, starting a club, and you say, oh, we might get 50 people here at this club, and all of a sudden it's the hottest shit on in your town, and now there's 500 people in there. So what are you supposed to do? Right now, you don't
Hmm.
have the aesthetics to make that club big and bright the way it's supposed to be. I think that the WNBA was not ready to open up that club to let everybody in. I think they were good with the 50, 100 people
Hmm.
metaphorically in the club. Now there's millions in that club, and they don't know what to do.
Hmm.
They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to handle it.
Hmm. And you hit that right on the nail because the whole Angel Caitlin Clark discourse. There was a
Yep.
lot of like political discourse and just kind of back and forth between the two, tribes of the fans of each one of those players. And the WNBA just
Mhm.
looked at it as like, oh, it's attention. No matter how awful some of the discourse could be, it's attention on the WNBA. But you actually need to go in there as the commissioner and as executives and actually weed some of that stuff out, so that you can actually focus on the product as opposed to the backstory of that all. No, they weren't ready. They weren't ready for the league to blown up the way it has over the last couple of years. And, that may speak to the commissioner's inability to be able to run a league. And, put that together with Nafisa's comments that she made a couple of days ago, and she is definitely on the hot seat with her status now. Do the other owners, just kind of hold her up, or do they, maybe need to take a listen to, what these players are talking about and what the fans are going to start talking about soon? Because those were bombshell comments that she made.
Yes, it was. We're presented by Inkin Law, our good friend Howard Inkin on the ESPN Chicago Morning Show, 3126 million. Also here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. You need an attorney? Check out Inkin Law, 3126 million. Injury law made personal. That's Inkin Law. Sound my ball. Let us now move on and pivot to the beloved. Man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Charles Taylor. I wish you were there with me, man. I wish you were there in Vegas because it was completely lit. Bears fans everywhere, about 64, about 70-30. Bears fans that were there at Allegiant Stadium. It's nothing like seeing a fan right next to you wearing the same jersey, the same outfit that you had. It was great. I will just tell you, I said this before on the podcast, 2-2 sounds better than 1-3. I just want to get your overall view of the Bears, 2-2 going into the bye. What do you know about Chicago Bears football under Ben Johnson?
You can already see the difference in how this team is coached. in the first 4 games of the season, as opposed to what we witnessed under the last 2 or 3 years under Matt Eberflus. Uh, I hate to use the whole bring the intensity, but that's what Ben Johnson is doing, and he has really latched himself to Caleb Williams and his development because he sees what Caleb Williams could potentially be as a quarterback, and I think he salivates at the potential of developing this young man into an elite quarterback. Um, that was kind of a question coming in, and whether those two could, be cohesive and learn from one another. But we're seeing it. Caleb has grown from last year. Um, it hasn't necessarily translated outside of that Dallas game into like star making numbers, but you're seeing Caleb, a bit more poised. You're seeing Caleb making uh, better choices as he's, under center or in shotgun, going through progressions. You can see that he's trying to get more receivers into the mix. It's clear that he and Adunze, that's going to be your number one tandem going forward, but he also is looking at he's got DJ Moore, he's got Cole Komet, he's got Colson Loveland, he's got other options that he can use, and you're seeing him and Ben Johnson work together to try to make this offense more explosive. Yeah, there are going to be some bumps in the road this year, but if you can just continue to see, the progression of Caleb, we could be on the verge of something special. Just got to do something with those tackles.
So CJ, look at this schedule, right? So when the schedule first came out, you're just like, schedule's a little daunting, right? Because in that
Yeah.
schedule, it's returning to the belly of the beast, taking on Washington again after the
Hmm.
bye. Then it's the Saints. They could go winless this year. Saints could be that bad. Um,
Yeah.
but then Baltimore, Cincinnati. Okay, now we saw that schedule when it first came out. Both games on the road, like,
Hmm.
Lamar Jackson could eat them up. That's going to be tough on the
Yeah.
defense. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, potent offense. And we thought, but see, it's funny how the league works this way, right?
Hmm.
Lamar may be healthy by the time the Bears play him, but maybe not. We know that Joe Burrow might be out for the rest of the season, so they're going to go with Jake Browning or some reasonable facsimile of Jake Browning. So it's just amazing that you look at the schedule first, like, nah, the Bears don't have the talent. Bears don't have the talent. Bears don't have the talent. But now, if you win against Washington,
Hmm.
so you make up for that bullshit that happened last year, and you beat Washington, where they're kind of going backwards now
Hmm.
with Jane Daniels and with that offense. Maybe the sky's the limit. Maybe you're better than you think.
Yeah, these next 5 games for the Bears, as I'm looking at it, that Washington
Mm-hmm.
game, they are going to be jacked for that game because they want to erase last year's painful last second loss. So they're going to be hyped for that game. Like I said, you got the Saints. They should stomp a mud hole in the Saints because that's what you're supposed to do with bum teams. Whether or not you get Lamar back, going on the road to Baltimore is always going to be tough, whether he's there or not. But that Cincinnati game all of a sudden looks,
Yep.
very winnable. And Jackson Dart, in his rookie year, that should be a win, at home against the Giants. So you could conceivably come out of this 5 game stretch 3-2, maybe even 4-1, depending on how that Washington games go. And now all of a sudden, before you hit that really tough stretch, with Minnesota all the way through, taking on Detroit again, the Packers twice. I think they play the 49ers, during that stretch, the Eagles in that stretch. But,
Yep.
if you can go into that 6-3 or 5-4, that looks, significantly good for a team that I think most people were looking at maybe 7, 8 wins. But you can set yourself up to really test yourself to see how good you can be and stack yourself up against some of these other teams in the NFC.
Yeah. that Raiders game. So you it's so hard to win on the road, man. It's so difficult. And to see the Bears be able to pull that game out from a missed field goal when Max Crosby is all over the field chasing
Mm,
Caleb Williams down. There were so many mistakes made by the Bears that I wish they played Sunday to just keep going. But I know there's some injuries they need to get healthy. But
yeah,
among the issues that I saw was the middle of the offensive line is an issue. All of a sudden, the three new guys need to be able
yeah.
to gel. You go back and look at that all 22, or just go back and watch the game. The issues for Caleb, where he starts to try to. Caleb is great of stepping over dudes like bums on State Street. He loves to
Hmm.
like he like steps over guys and he goes go left or right or whatever. He's trying to just find a way to get out of trouble. And there's an issue with the middle of that offensive line. They got to get that better. But then from there, like there's a distinct difference between the Dallas game and the Raiders game in which there was zero pass rush from Eberflus's group. But then you take on Max Crosby and some in the middle of that Raiders defensive line. Now Caleb's like, oh no, okay, now I need to get out of this situation.
Hmm.
And so, he's got to be able to handle that pressure. He did at the end because he didn't get frustrated. He didn't get flustered. He did at the end when they needed that touchdown from Swift. But it just the defense getting gashed for 240 yards,
Yeah,
making Genty look like Barry Sanders. You got to work
yeah,
on. So it's not a finished product, but each week you can find a way to get better.
yeah. That Raider game. If this was Matt Eberflus, if this was last year, they lose that game. They
Yeah,
just lose that game.
yeah,
Because there was too much time left when the Raiders had the ball. The Raiders last year would have marched all the way down the field as opposed to just getting into field goal range and winning that game, from the Bears. But credit again to Ben Johnson and the coaching staff having this team with a no quit attitude and that they were going to fight this game all the way down to 0-0, and they did that, and they found a way to win a very ugly ball game. We're going to see some games throughout this season that are not going to be pretty, but if you can find a way to win a ball game when you're probably not supposed to, that's the mark of a team that even with its issues on the offensive line, even with the issues of their run defense, which is horrible. It is last in the NFL in terms of yards given up. I believe close to 165 yards a game. Uh, you can't sustain wins when you're giving up that much yardage. But if you can find a way to just get a win here, get a win here, try to clean up and fix, some of the mistakes you have, and that's the makings of a team that's on its way. That game right there, I think could be pivotal. The way we looked at the Washington game last year and how
yeah.
everything just
Hmm.
fell apart, for the Bears, you could look at that Raiders game and say they found a way to win. They found a way to just gut this out and get a dub, and that could be the springboard for them. I'm not saying playoffs. I'm not saying getting contention or anything like that, but it's something to build on, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for things to see that the team is making progress, and you're looking to see if Caleb can take that next step. Those are the two things that you need to be concerned about this year. And that Raider game was just a little something. Now we just need to see if they continue to build upon that.
Especially on the road against Washington. That's going to be interesting to go right back in there in the next game and see whether or not Tyreek Stevenson could be a leader, which he has been while Jalen Johnson's
Hmm.
been out.
Hmm.
Just to see Kevin Byard be all over the field, man. That dude was like, "Oh, I know this play. I'm gonna pick this
Yeah,
dude off twice in the
yeah.
same spot." Right? It's like stuff like that, and Tremaine Edmonds playing well is also so. All of this is pretty cool. Is there anything I failed to ask you about the Bears that you want to mention before we wrap up?
Um, you know, my concerns with the team are the injuries on defense. Obviously, we're not getting Jalen Johnson back probably for the rest of this season. You do have to wonder about TJ. And if he can come back, hopefully we get Kyler Gordon back before the Washington game, or at least by the Washington game. That will help your defense some. The other thing, you got to take a look at that defensive line. they've spent some money on that defensive line, and you're getting nothing from it. Montez Sweat has been LOA for most of this season. Grady Jarrett, he was injured as well, so hopefully you can get him back and they can start to make an impact. Javon Dexter, we haven't called his name much, outside of I think the first game of the season. So they still got plenty of question marks on that defense, and particularly that defensive line. Because Dennis Allen's strategy is, hey, I'm just going to continue to send forward. You guys got to get home, and they're not getting home. That's a problem.
Can we also give Anissa Collier just a little bit more love? Just one more time. A
Absolutely.
real one.
Just
A
that
real one. Look at her.
man, that she is. I mean, I've been a fan of hers for a minute, but that whole press conference where she just came and just lit the torch, I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
All right, man. Tell everybody about the ctjreport.net. What if I go there? What would I find?
You're gonna find a little bit of Bears. We're gonna get back into wrestling because let's face it, it hasn't been the greatest of late
Mm-hmm.
in terms of storylines, but it'll pick back up. I'm trying to center more towards YouTube, but you may get the occasional blog here and there, but I'm trying to steer more of my content to YouTube. So look out for that.
Oh, belt to ass. Finally, the man gets on YouTube with his content. CTJ reports on YouTube. I see.
Yeah.
Aha.
The wife had a little bit of a talking to with me. So
see, we're on the same page with you. See, she's on my side. She's on
yeah,
my side, trying to get the content out.
Yeah,
Are we
definitely on your
partnering?
side. So
let me ask you this: are we partnering your YouTube with my YouTube? Are we doing a partnership? You're part of Under the Hood, so am I part of your YouTube as well?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought that question doesn't even need to be asked.
I'd like to have that in paper, sir. I like to have that
You
on
got
paper, and I like the money that folds.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm a guy that likes the money that folds. So just so you know, when I say paper, I didn't mean contract. I meant money that folds. That's what I meant.
Oh, absolutely. Because we shouldn't be talking about anything else but that.
We're presented by the fine folks over at Ankin Law. There he is. Injury Law Made Personal. 3126 million for Howard Ankin, a friend of the Kap J-Hood Morning Show. Hey, put that number in your phone just in case. You just never know. Just in case you might need Howard. He picks up the phone. I'll tell you the story. We're doing commercials. Kap and I are doing commercials. And he's in the middle of his read and he says, hold on a second. And he pulls the phone out of his suit coat and he goes, this is Howard. Uh-huh. 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 Okay, I'll call you right back after my production. Thank you. And he hangs up the phone. He's like, Howard, who is that? Oh, it's a client because someone called 3126 million. It's just that simple with Howard Ankin, that's for sure. Injury Law Made Personal, Chicago Zone, Howard Ankin. A friend for the UIC Flames and ESPN Chicago. Well, sir, as always, it is a pleasure to talk to you. We hope to talk to you again very soon because the NBA season is right around the corner. I want to make sure that we stay on this Bulls team because I want to make sure that, if I'm not watching the Bulls, I'll just put you on and let you talk about them because no one bitches about the Bulls thinking that you think Jordan's going to come through that tunnel like you do. So,
yeah, Scottie Pippen's not walking through that door. Horace Grant's not walking through that door. But they damn well better do something.
Only the Bulls. There they are, the Chicago Bulls. Well, we'll see what happens. All right, my friend. All right, for the CTJ Report and Charles Taylor, this is Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for checking out Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe what we talk about here with our Bulls coverage and our NBA coverage as CJ was able to realize in real time that LeBron has a nerve issue in his ass. It's always good to be able to educate in real time that he has a glute issue, LeBron James. It's amazing. Stop sitting around with comedians and maybe get in on the court. Maybe stop hanging around Kevin Hart. Maybe that would help.
Just saying, get in the gym, LeBron. Get in the gym.
Get in the gym. He's 41. Get in the gym, you say. So long, everybody.